So I'm Noah, and I started running Edible Bristol this time last year after my mum got poorly, but my mum started Edible Bristol 11 years ago now by initially guerrilla gardening, going around unloved spaces in Bristol and putting in veg and climbers and anything you can eat, really. We're currently at the Sarah Venn project, which is a project dedicated to growing food for food banks. We have a food bank under a mile away that we push all our produce to. We're completely volunteer run, so yeah, we do quite a lot with inviting the community in anyway. Everyone should have a choice with what they eat, even if they don't have the money to go into the shops. I myself have been in the situation where I've had to use a food bank, and it's not a nice feeling, but giving someone the choice and giving them a little bit of happiness in actually having access to the food that is going to make them thrive is vital, yeah. But yeah, for these roses, I think any space that has the ability to produce food should be used as such. We don't have enough growing space in the UK for ourselves, so I think every acre we have spare is really important. I think with projects like ours, it gives people a little bit of hope and a little bit of time where they can spend it outdoors. They don't have to be in their apartments or their flats, or they can take some time to be outside and have access to ground. I mean, sometimes you do need to get your signatures and stuff, but other times, if you're making an unloved space look loved, then it's all the permission I think you really need. I work with a different organisation, and we work with kids. These kids, before they came, thought a carrot came from Lidl, and they've actually now grown it and they think it's magic, do you know what I mean? So that's not in their curriculum though. I personally think that it is vital for kids to learn about where their food comes from. This is where our obesity comes from. This is where our fights with cancers and illnesses come from, is because we don't know how to look after ourselves properly, because we're not taught to. This should be second nature to us. This is what we biologically should know.
We're the land gardeners. I'm Bridget Elworthy.
And I'm Henrietta Courtauld.
And we are gardeners and growers. We also design wild gardens. And we are, at the moment, we've been curating art exhibitions around soil.
We are very passionate about soil and raising awareness of soil and really telling everyone about the wonders of soil. Not only is it alive beneath ground, but it sustains all life above ground. And so whether we're relying on it for the food we eat, for the health of our waterways, for even the health of our planet, it all starts in the soil.
Well, we absolutely love the idea of guerrilla gardening. I mean, it's hard for some people to get access to land, so we love the idea that all land is up for a plant.
Also, actually, gardening is so good for us. They've now found that there's a bacteria in the soil which is the same as one in our gut, which stimulates serotonin in the brain. So that feel-good factor you have when you garden and when you put your hands in the soil, there is a scientific reason behind it. So the more we can all be gardening, whether it's in our own garden or guerrilla gardening, is so good for us.
There's more life in a teaspoon of soil than people on the planet. And once you know that, you start feeling like you want to look after it, and there's all sorts of ways that you can look after soil. We love things like green manures, which are things like phacelia, buckwheat, various clovers, and these plants are quick growing and they just activate the soil, they get things growing, they cover the surface, which is great.
So all these plants are pumping down carbon from the sun. They're pumping it down, and a lot of that carbon is actually going out of their roots to feed the microbes and the fungi, and in turn those microbes and fungi are bringing in nutrients and minerals for the plant. So there's this wonderful partnership going on. Soils that are really humming and really healthy will hold and absorb so much more water than soils that are unhealthy. So, as Bridgie said, it does make them much more resilient in the face of climate change if we can get our soils humming again. We would really like to see more gardening in schools, and we'd really like to see it becoming part of the national curriculum.
It is very empowering. I mean, if you know how to grow your own food, it's super important, and who knows what the next 50 years is going to hold for us. And I think if you're able to grow your own food and you know about food systems, it's, you know, a basic education really. It should be one of those things that we all should know.
So my name's Matthew Bradby, and I live in Tottenham in North London, and I work for a charity, a nursing charity. I remember walking down a road near where I live, and I could see someone had planted an apple tree and a pear tree in what was public space, and it was the first time I'd seen that done. The trees thrived, and that really made an impression on me, and I thought, well, if someone can do it and the trees do get left alone and don't get vandalised, then maybe it's worth me doing it too. I mean, it's something I've always been very concerned about, public space, places where the land isn't necessarily taken care of very well. You have things like old playing fields and old bowling greens, and it seems the first thought is, can we build flats on it? And the whole area gets even less green. We actually have to fight to protect those areas. In the street where I live, some of the gardens are paved and some of them are gardens, and for me every front garden lost, you know, is a real pity. You know, even a square metre, square metre, you can do lots of things. There's definite sort of no-nos of things to avoid, like property boundaries usually, or things like drains, or anything where it might interfere with some kind of utility. I think it's very good to have a conversation with the local authority. I think maybe in the past there was the thought that people couldn't be trusted, and the local authority didn't want people going out planting strange plants, you know, wherever popped into their head. But I think the people who do plant things, they are generally responsible. So I think local authorities have got more trusting, and I think that's good. But obviously I don't want to ask their permission. But you do always take a chance, you know, you go out, you plant something, there is always a risk. I'm always thinking of, you know, what is a good plant for pollinators, what is potentially a tree that birds will nest in. Nowadays, species that you choose would have to be pretty tough. With climate change in the city, we're looking at quite long dry periods, so trees that will be able to cope with that kind of those kind of conditions. Crab apples are really good. In spring they'll have beautiful flowers that are great for pollinators, and then in autumn they'll have beautiful fruit on as well, which look really nice, and birds will eat them. So they provide a lot. there's loads of, I would say, native trees that you can germinate just by, you know, a nut or a seed, or you know, get hold of them from a charity. You know, you could have an orchard in no time if you wanted.
You know, if you are up on a high rise and you have access to a window, you can grow something. You know, yeah, there's plenty of options. There's plenty of things you can buy, plenty of things you can make, and I'd encourage anyone to do so.
And actually that's a brilliant idea about the green manures, because if you are guerrilla gardening, I mean, that would be a brilliant way to start. They're the most quick growing flowers. You literally just throw them on the ground, and something like Phacelia is really beautiful. It's got a lovely lilac flower, and bees love it.
The sort of potential that an oak tree has, that you think if you plant that acorn in 500 years' time, that could still be there, that tree could be there, and it would host an entire ecosystem. That's just an incredible thought, I think. You know, our lifetimes are, you know, almost like butterflies compared to the lives of these big trees.